Yesterday, arm in arm, everyone united, pointing at the Greens about how crazy they had gone, in part in the support of protests, which, let's be honest, many of them actually mask themselves as being pro the innocent Palestinians, but scratch not too far under the surface and we start getting to people like that one that was expelled today from the Australian National University who was all in on Hamas. Again, yesterday, arm in arm was the Prime Minister and Peter Dutton admonishing the Greens.
It is unacceptable that misinformation is being consciously and deliberately spread by some Green senators and MPs who have engaged in this in demonstrations outside offices and online.
We stand as one in this chamber, or we should stand as one to make sure that we condemn the unacceptable levels of anti-Semitism that we see playing out on our streets. It has no place, and we will take every action we need as a chamber to make sure that we condemn those acts of anti-Semitism in our country, and the Greens political party today is properly and rightly condemned.
Yeah. Now, in part, one of the ways that the Greens have been able to, or at least the supporters of the Greens, we should say, have been showing their muscle, or lack thereof, is in the protests which have been taking place at universities. Remember, we've shown you plenty of times, which does not show that the Greens are automatically involved, but remember the one in Brisbane in particular, when they were using the call flutes from the Greens, the election posters, and on the other side was where they were writing some of the things they were saying at the protests. Well, of course, these university protesters, this is all the sort of, anti-Vietnam style thing wrapped up in a 21st century bunch of people who, have no courage in the world. Instead, they're just doing it for the clicks. Their hunger strike in the US lasted, half a day? Anyway, you know the stuff they say.
It's Chris Kenny, you got the name right, but there's no need to call me a creep.
The Anzacs played a major role in the violence that established British Mandate Palestine.
Back to the stuff we were mentioning before. That's what this weird new left, right? Now, there are very good and very decent people who understand the extremes of what is taking place, who understand that to criticise the Israeli government is not to criticise the State of Israel, who believe that things have gone too far in Gaza. But none of those people are involved in these protests. None of these people are the ones who turn on students who, again, are Jewish in Australia. They're not the Prime Minister of Israel. They're not part of any government anywhere. They are people amongst us who deserve to be free to practice their religion, and yes, in a world of free speech, believe what they believe. But when it starts turning to where it has of recent months, well, we all know what's going on here. But literally, 24 hours ago, the Prime Minister was all waving fingers and carrying on about the Greens and about their role in things and about how important it was to make sure that any sort of racial or religious discrimination was not acceptable in Australia. Well, when it comes to the question of the Greens and their obvious views that are not in the mainstream, there was an opportunity to have an inquiry. It was an inquiry into the madness on campus. But Labor turned around and voted it down. So yesterday, look at us. Let's go after the real problem that in part is directly funded by the Australian government. No, those people are going to vote Green and they preference Labor. They're going to vote Labor. We need them to stay in power. Also interesting too, when the Labor Party was asked directly today, will you now put the Greens where they deserve to go, which is last on the ballot paper? Here's the question.
Will the Prime Minister commit to preferencing Green candidates last in every electorate at the next election? Prime
Minister's answer?
You've hinted in your ruling there what my answer will be, Mr Speaker, which is that those matters are all matters for the organisation of the party that we went through, but we certainly won't be taking lectures from the mob who want to preference one nation.
Now, I'm sure that somebody will take 3 days to write 1,000 words in The Guardian to this question. But do you really think that one nation is worse than the Greens? Now, I understand that there are political parties that they would not want to give their preferences to. So, OK, let's go Greens last, One Nation second last, or the other way around. But let's not, in terms of Labor, send preferences to the very people who are going to take Australian politics to the far left. Before Pauline and everyone else gets annoyed with me, I'm not suggesting you should put One Nation last. I'm talking about to the bosses of the Labor Party. And then, of course, after this next election, if the polls are right, we're going to be in a minority scenario. So can the government right now say they will not play any games post-minority with the Greens?
My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, given the anti-Semitic conduct of the Greens political party and the Prime Minister's justified condemnation of them yesterday, will the Prime Minister rule out governing with the support of the Greens?
What do you reckon happens now?
I'm reminded of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and what the meaning of life is. In this case, the meaning of life is 78, which is how many members that we have over this side. We seek majority government. I said very clearly and consistently so.
A bloke who claims to hate the Greens but needs them to exist in order to get anywhere near 76, which is the majority, let alone 78, which is what they have. 70 seats that Labor hold in the parliament come with Green preferences. So spare me any garbage, and it was proven within 24 hours when they had a chance to have an inquiry into what's been happening in the university campuses. Oh, no, this is all just a pantomime. We wouldn't actually want to expose the behaviour. And for his part, Adam Bant was running around threatening to call in the lawyers because of things that had been said, which of course has a chilling effect on anyone criticising the Greens. Madness.